Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to another episode of the Raw Prospect Podcast. This is episode 189, and today we're doing something that has never been done before. We're going to be doing a Ryder Cup Draft where we each pick players from out of both Ryder Cup rosters, and at the end of this, we're going to compile both of our teams. And the way it's going to work is if your player earns a point in the Ryder Cup from winning a match, then whoever's team that player is on gets a point for the sake of this game that we're doing. And say if it's 4 ball and one player is on my team and one player is on Michael's team on the winning team, then we would each get a half point in that scenario. Um, but before we get into all that, make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel if you have not already. We're going to continue to make crazy golf content like this. And like I said, this has never been done. So if you like this, we'll do more of it. And joining me from Houston, Texas, the Stat King himself, Mr. Michael Ween. How you doing, man?
I'm doing good. I don't know that I would say it's never been done. We just haven't seen it be done before. You could probably go out there and find somewhere something along these lines that has been done before. We just haven't seen it, particularly for this year and as of recent. Now, I'm doing well. I've been thinking, I hope Prize Picks has a Ryder Cup segment on their app next weekend because that will sure be fun. After this live stream, we'll be doing another live stream with lots of college football talk for a loaded Saturday tomorrow and some prize picks for some of those games that Emmy and I have each chose. If you're on Prize Picks, as it is legal in Texas, then you can take our advice or you cannot take our advice, but that'll be fun. It's a new thing that I'm going to be doing throughout conference play and up until the college football season is over, and maybe even when college basketball season begins. But for today's episode, we haven't talked golf in a while. The Ryder Cup will take place next week in Rome, Italy. So we're very excited for that. We need to decide who will be getting the first pick. And to do that, I believe we will be doing some kind of online coin flip. Is that correct?
Yep, that is correct.
While Emmy is pulling that up, just make sure, as he probably mentioned in the opener, like and subscribe to our channel. Check out all our content. Share it with your friends. Tell us who you think is going to win the Ryder Cup, the U.S. and or Europe. And tell us what players you are rooting for in particular next weekend, if you are into this sort of thing. Okay, so am I calling the coin toss?
Yeah, go ahead and call it. Heads or tails?
I will go tails.
All right. Okay, it is tails. So since we're doing a snake draft format, you get the choice of whether you want the first pick or the second and third pick.
I'll take the second and third pick.
Okay, interesting. Okay, for my first pick, I got the entire group of guys to pick from here. This is on European soil, so I'm taking that into account in these picks as well. And I'm going to take Victor Hovland. I just don't think there's a guy on planet Earth playing better golf right now than Victor Hovland. There's just not. What he does in terms of accuracy off the tee, ball striking with his irons, and then to pair that now with a top short game on the PGA Tour, and the putting stroke has always just been butter. This dude is, set to have an amazing Ryder Cup. He had experience in Whistling Straits at the last Ryder Cup, where he I don't think was able to win a match there in that route the USA had in that Ryder Cup. But this time around, I think this course suits him, and I think he's going to go out there and dominate.
Yeah, Victor Hovland caught fire, particularly during the FedEx Cup playoffs. We saw him on Sunday at the BMW Championship, where he was knocking down flag sticks left and right, shoots a 61, wins that event, and then literally a week later goes on to win the Tour Championship at 27 under par. Elite ball striker, totally has turned his short game around in the span of a couple years. He's turned that from a weakness to a strength. And I don't think it's going to be long if he's not already number one until he is ranked number one in the world. The only thing left for him to do is win a major, and I believe he's on the trajectory to do that. I think he's going to play very well this week, and he's going to play a lot. So it's going to be one of the lead dogs for Europe. With my first pick, I'm going to go Scotty Scheffler. I get 2 picks here. So my first is going to be Scotty Scheffler. Look, he didn't have the greatest season in the world. His putting, he struggled with his putting for, I guess, a couple months span. But he put on one of the greatest ball striking seasons in PGA Tour history, statistically. He's one of the better ball strikers in the world, obviously. It only amounted to, again, 2 wins, struggled with his putter, but 18, he had an 18 event top 12 streak. And look, his run to number one in the world really began with his 2021 Ryder Cup appearance when he got captain's pick and went 2-0-1 in his matches. I think he's going to play a lot, and that matters because the more matches these guys play, the better for us and the more opportunities we have to acquire points. And he's going to be eager to turn things around after he was 0-3-1 in the President's Cup last year. So I'm going to go Scotty Scheffler, one of the better, if not the best, ball striker on the planet. And then for my second pick, since this is being played on, there are many different ways I could go. I could go Xander Schauffele if I wanted to, Mr. Consistency. Or I can take one of the other top dogs from the European team. And I think I'm going to take Jon Rahm. I was debating between Rahm and McIlroy, but I think I'm going to go Jon Rahm. Look, he racked up wins this year early on: Tournament of Champions, American Express, Genesis, the Masters. He also logged runner-up finishes in Mexico and at the Open. He didn't really look like the same player he was early on the season, later on in the season, but he was 12th best true strokes gained over the last 3 months. We know his pedigree. I think he's going to surely have a big factor on the outcome. And in the last at Whistling Straits, the pairing of Rahm and Garcia went 3-0 together. I think he's the type of player that is going to play well at this event. So I'm going to go Scotty Scheffler and Jon Rahm. I'll hand the floor over to you. Do you get the 4th and 5th picks? Is that how this?
Correct. Yes.
Okay.
For my next pick, I'm going with Rory McIlroy here. This dude has the most experience out of anybody at this Ryder Cup. He's just been I don't want to say genius, but pretty much just almost untouchable in certain Ryder Cups where he just gets hot with the putter, and at that point you just can't beat him at that point. Particularly the match he had with Justin Thomas, I believe it was 2 Ryder Cups ago, was just ridiculous. Go back and watch that match if you don't know what I'm talking about. But Rory's a Ryder Cup legend. There's no question about it, and the crowd's going to be behind him, and he's going to feed off it. He always does. So with my fifth pick, I'm going to take Xander Schauffele. As you said, Mr. Consistent. I mean, in a match play setting, if you want a dude that's just going to be super steady as your teammate and not make mistakes and not put too much pressure on his teammate because you know he's going to be in good spots and play smart golf. And in the Ryder Cup, the moment's not going to be too big for this guy. He's won a gold medal. He's won huge events on the PGA Tour. So pretty self-explanatory. This dude's been playing amazing golf all season long, and he's, I think, a top 5 player in this event this year.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, with my next picks, my first pick might surprise some people, but I'm going to go Tommy Fleetwood. I think Tommy Fleetwood, over the last couple months of the season, you can make the argument he was a borderline top 5 player in the world. The way that he was playing over his last 13 starts this year, he had 7 top 6 finishes and 11 top 25s. In particular, his short game and putting have been outstanding, absolutely outstanding. All of the statistics are great. We remember his run back, I think it was 2018 with Francesco Molinari, where they went undefeated in all 4 team sessions. He did struggle at Whistling Straits a little bit, but I think this course will be better suited towards his game, and it is on home soil. I like Tommy Fleetwood. And then I get another pick, right? It's just 2, 2, 2.
Yep.
From here on out. Okay. Between 2 guys here, but I think I'm going to take Patrick Cantlay. Patrick Cantlay had a really good season. Not a great one because he didn't end up winning, but he had 18 top 30 finishes and 8 top 5s. We know historically Cantlay and Xander Schauffele form one of the stronger duos at the Ryder Cup. They win a combined 6-1-1 over the last 2 team competitions. Cantlay led the PGA Tour in total driving and birdie average, and he's been amongst the top 5 players at the Ryder Cup in true strokes gained over the last 3, 6, 12, and 24 months. So he's just flat out overall one of the better players at this event this year. Although he doesn't necessarily win a lot, I think he's going to have a really good week. So I went Tommy Fleetwood and Patrick Cantlay.
Okay. Yeah. Once you get past the top 5 guys off the board, I think the top 5 are pretty much set in stone for something like this. But once you get past those guys, it would be interesting. I knew it was going to be interesting to see who you were going to go with there, and you ended up taking the next 2 guys on my board. Fleetwood was just untouchable paired with Francesco Molinari in 2018. He struggled a bit at Whistling Straits, but this year I just think he's set to have another dominant performance. The putter has been working for him, and as you said, guys with the track record and know the atmosphere of a Ryder Cup. I mean, it's so important to have that experience because it's unlike anything else in golf. So for my next pick, I'm gonna go with Colin Morikawa. Didn't win this year, hasn't won since 2021, but you can put this dude on a short list of ball strikers year over year over year. The one concern here would be he doesn't have his partner from 2021, Dustin Johnson, here on the team. But regardless, I think to close the year out was playing much better golf. And it's not like this dude wasn't in the mix in a lot of tournaments. He was. had that playoff against Ricky at the Rocket Mortgage this year, lost there. Had a six shot lead on the back nine at Kapalua this year, the opening tournament of the year. So this dude is consistently in the mix at tournaments, and in a Ryder Cup setting, I just think he's going to deliver. Now, my next pick, I'm debating between Max Homa and Tyrrell Hatton here, but I'm going to go with Tyrrell Hatton. I'm going with a lot of European players here that you might be seeing a trend. It's not that I'm going to be cheering for Europe. That's not the case at all. Screw that. But for the sake of this, I just think in the team ball formats where it's just going to be you want to get players with a balanced skill set, and Tyrrell Hatton exemplifies all of that. And on top of that, I just think with his fiery personality, with the European crowd behind him, I just think he's just built for something like this. I think he's kind of similar to Ian Poulter in that sense, with just his competitive fire for stuff like this.
Yeah, he's just consistent, man. The only knock you can really have against a guy like Tyrrell Hatton is that he hasn't won since early 2021 in Abu Dhabi. But he puts himself in good positions almost every single week. He has logged 10 top 10 finishes in 2023 to this point, including a top 10 as recently as the BMW Championship at the FedEx Cup playoffs, runner-up at the BMW PGA Championship, 2-4-1 record in 2 previous Ryder Cups. I don't necessarily pay a ton of attention to that. He just is a solid player, not really a weakness in his game, and he can absolutely fill it up on the greens with the way that he putts. And then, while Morikawa has sort of struggled with his putting at times, he's a lethal iron player. He's like in the top 5 of ball strikers on tour. He ranked 2nd this year in strokes gained approach and 3rd in greens and regulation percentage. He's just solid. And I think he could make sense to pair with a guy like I'm going to take right now, his former teammate at Cal. That would be Max Homa. Look, he started last year strong. Nearly picked up another win at Riviera. There were some inconsistencies in the middle of the year, but he closed with the top 12 finish in his last 6 events. He's an elite wedge player and a very, very good putter. And I think he's also a better driver of the golf ball than people give him credit for. He actually did go 4-0 at the President's Cup last year. And I think he's going to be a very important player for this U.S. team next week. So I'm going to go Max Homa with my next pick. And then, that kind of takes my top 10 off the board. We're through my top 10. So now we're getting down to this, like what I would call next tier of guys. My next 3 are all U.S. guys, and then there's guys like Matt Fitzpatrick, Justin Rose. How do you say his name? Abear. Yeah, Ludwig. Ludwig Abear. You know what? God, this is tough.
I have my eye on one guy, and I'm just praying that you don't take it right now.
I'm gonna go Brian Harmon. That might surprise some people. It clearly didn't surprise you. Torrid stretch this summer. 5 top 12s, in a 6-event stretch, highlighted, of course, by his dominant performance at the Open Championship at Royal Liverpool. I think he has that bulldog mentality. He's not a guy that I think cares too much. I don't think he's a guy that's going to get rattled by the environment. I think he's just kind of that guy that cares just enough to go out, take care of business. With how good of a putter he is, the ball striking is shaky at times, but he led the PGA Tour in scrambling this year, so his short game is as good as anyone that will be playing next weekend. And I think he's going to absolutely shine in the foursome. So I like Brian Harman this week. Those are my next two picks. Who was it? Max Homa and Brian Harman.
Yeah. I mean, if you were to make a list of players that you'd want as a alternate shot partner, which is one of the formats at the Ryder Cup, I mean, past, the elite players at the very top, Brian Harman would be right up there because you'd want a guy who drives the ball straight, for one, and can just putt the lights out. I mean, if you miss a green in alternate shot, you want to do that you're confident in to just chip it up close to where you have an easy tap in par. I think Brian Harman is a secret weapon at this Ryder Cup. You look at his track record in match play, at the Dell match play in particular. This guy consistently gets past the group stage and is deep into that tournament. I just think this dude is just built for match play. I really do. When it comes to like competitiveness and just mental toughness, he's right up there. And that's what it's all about in match play. Okay, my next pick, I'm going to go with the last major champion from this year off the board. Actually, no. Brooks Koepka is still there as well. But I'm going to go with Wyndham Clark here. When it comes to driving the crap out of the golf ball, I mean, I've been saying this a ton today, but he's on the short list of dudes as well. You look at what he did at the U.S. Open. I mean, he put on a clinic, and even when he did get out of position, he showed he can get up and down from everywhere. He's not just a power guy, so to speak. So Wyndham Clark, I think, has the complete game to be an ideal playing partner in four ball and alternate shot. So I think he'll do really well. My next pick, though, I'm going to go with Jordan Spieth. I think had a better year than a lot of people would give him credit for. Has a good track record at the Ryder Cup as well. Had a top 5 finish at the Memorial, top 6 in Memphis. Had a really good stretch of golf in the spring. Maybe not quite as strong throughout the rest of the summer. But, I mean, with a track record of, what Jordan Spieth has done in his career, putting him next to Justin Thomas, I think it'll be another great year for that pairing. I think that pairing, there's a reason why they didn't want to split that up and not get Justin Thomas onto this team. It's because that pairing is just flat out too lethal to let off of a Ryder Cup team, especially in Europe, where you need dudes with experience, one, and two, just are going to just not get rattled with any type of momentum shift.
Yeah. By the way, I did not change the title. We might have to go back and fix that later on. I just saw your message. Those are good picks, though. Look, Spieth had a very strong stretch of golf, posted 5 top 6 finishes in 7 stroke play events. He had a stretch in the middle of his year where it wasn't as good, but he'll look to repeat what he did at the President's Cup last fall when he went 5-0, which is pretty damn good in a format like this. And then Wyndham Clark, I mean, I think he's just got a good all-around game. You mentioned his power and his putting prowess. He's going to be, I think, a mainstay on the PGA Tour for years to come. I think he's just a really good player. He did struggle a little bit since the U.S. Open victory, but I think that's kind of human nature. He ended the season on a good note, a third-place finish at East Lake at the Tour Championship. He's a really good player. I think he'll be really, really good in the 4-ball format. So I like those picks for sure. Okay, so we're getting down there now. We're getting to the second half of our boards here, at least. So for me right now, I've got, I think, 2 Europeans and 4 Americans, and you've got 1, 2, 3 Europeans, and I guess it's 4 Americans. Okay. So we're both around the same area right now. With my next pick, I'm gonna go Matt Fitzpatrick. Look, his Ryder Cup track record isn't great. He's 0-5 in 2 Ryder Cup appearances. So that's certainly a concern, obviously. But this will actually be his first Ryder Cup on European soil. So I look for that to maybe be a positive. I think his game will be better suited towards this particular setup. He had a pretty good year. He went tied second, tied ninth, tied third, tied 18th over his last 4 starts this year. His approach play at times can be a bit concerning, but he's added a lot of distance and he's strong on and around the greens. I think he'll have a better week this week for Europe. He needs to be good for Europe. And I just like his game. So I went Matt Fitzpatrick to kind of get another European on my team. And then now, I don't know. Do I go Koepka? Do I go Ricky Fowler? Do I maybe pick another European? You know what? I don't love him, but I'll be rooting for him this week. He is the lone live golf player in the Ryder Cup. And there's already stuff out there where you can tell, he's in big game Brooks mode for this. I'm going to take Brooks Koepka. He nearly made the U.S. team on points despite playing in just 4 events that granted Ryder Cup points this year, which is sort of crazy. Yeah. He finished second at the Masters, won his 3rd PGA Championship in May. He wasn't really a factor at the other majors, the U.S. Open or the Open Championship, but all the American players seemed to at least like him to some degree. They wanted him on the team. As I said before, I mean, we don't really know the exact form of his game, but I expect it to be in good shape. I think he's going to be major championship Brooks. And if the U.S. gets that form of Brooks Koepka, I think things will turn out well for them. Koepka has proven in the past that it doesn't matter with him if the event is big enough to really grab his interest. This will be his 4th Ryder Cup appearance. He does own a 6-5-1 record, so not great, but certainly not bad. So yeah, I went Brooks Koepka. I just like his. I think he'll have a pretty good week.
Yeah, I can't argue with that. I mean, he's a big time player. There's no question about that at all. And then Matt Fitzpatrick. I mean, this is his first Ryder Cup as a major champion. I mean, if there's any confidence builder, it's winning a major championship on the biggest stage, and especially the way he did it, where you're in a fairway bunker knowing you have to make par or birdie to win the U.S. Open Championship, and then doing it with the way he did. there's not a bigger confidence builder than that. The work he's done to improve his distance off the tee and just become a higher echelon of player, it can't be understated. I think he's just a different player from what he was in those past teams. Okay, my next pick, it's going to be Ricky Fowler.
There we go.
Has a lot of experience in the Ryder Cup. Obviously had that big, turnaround this season. I mean, this is pretty self-explanatory here. I think he's the best player available out of the guys left. That's probably that's probably up for debate a little bit, but no matter the case, I just think with his experience, he's played on winning Ryder Cup teams before. I think he's going to be ready for this moment.
Who's your next pick?
My next pick.
It's getting a little tougher.
Yeah. I'm going to take Sam Burns. I think behind Brian Harman he's the best putter on the U.S. team, and I don't know if there's much of a question there. I mean, you could point to a couple other guys here and there, but Sam Burns is on this team specifically because of what he does on the greens. So you place him with a Colin Morikawa or just any player on this team that may struggle with the putter a little bit, and you can feel confident that he's going to go out there and take advantage of the opportunities given for birdies and to win holes. So Sam Burns.
Good pick. Look, Sam Burns, he won the WGC match play in March, dominant fashion. Iron play sort of fell off at times this year, but the putting is as good as it has ever been. And I think he'll be a good combination for whoever he pairs up with. Really good ball striker. I just like Sam Burns. And did you see the haircuts that both Sam Burns and Brooks Koepka got? Man.
No, I haven't yet, actually.
If you haven't seen that, you should go try to find that on Twitter. They both got kind of like the shaved sides with the USA shaved into their heads. It's something else. Okay. We're getting down to it now. So you've got 9 players now that you added Sam Burns, and I've got, I think, 8. So 9 plus 8, 17. So there's 7 players left on the board in total. And we're on good pace here at 34 minutes. So with my next picks, this is where it gets tougher, obviously. I look at guys like Shane Lowry. I look at maybe a Ludwig Abear. I look at Justin Rose. I know he's 43 years old. I know, people are kind of not really talking about him, but I'm going to pick Justin Rose just because he's top 30 on the PGA Tour in strokes gained approach, strokes gained around the green, strokes gained putting. He did pick up a victory earlier this year at the AT&T Pebble Beach Pro-Am, and he's had 9 top 25s since then. Yes, he did miss the cut at both the U.S. Open and the Open Championship, but I think there's certainly enough here, considering, I guess, the form of his game and his track record participating in his now 6th Ryder Cup. So he's up there on par with, maybe not as experienced as a guy like Rory McIlroy, but he's up there in experience, and he has a strong record, 13, 8, and 2 at the Ryder Cup. Look, I don't know what he does this week. I don't know how much he plays this week, but experience, track record, and I guess form of your game certainly matters. And he's in relatively good form for a guy who's 43 years old. So it might not be the best pick of all the players left, but I went Justin Rose since it is on home soil as well. And then, gosh, there's Shane Lowry. I could even take my guy JT if I wanted to, or I could go A-Bear. I'm going to take Justin Thomas. Look, it wasn't a very good year for him, for Justin Thomas standards, by the way, or for that matter. But he's coming off his second top 5 of 2023 last weekend in Napa. He ranks 25th in strokes gained total for the season. His putter's been the main issue, but the tee to green game is still pretty strong. I don't think him or his partner, Jordan Spieth, played their best golf down the stretch, but both have had so much success in these type of events together. And so that's sort of one of the reasons why I'm picking him. And I think we could look back at the end of next week, and I think, Thomas could have a pretty good week, along with being sort of like that emotional leader on this U.S. team. So I went with Justin Thomas.
Yeah. I was excited to have this conversation around Justin Thomas. There was a lot of, let's just say, hate that went Zach Johnson's way after he went out on a limb and got Justin Thomas as his last captain's pick. But here's the deal, though. The U.S. hasn't won a Ryder Cup on European soil since 1993. So you want dudes that are mentally tough, and you want dudes that are just going to, they're going to be able to rely on their prior experience, but also just, we know who Justin Thomas is. On a just simplify this whole thing down, and you look at Justin Thomas's resume on the PGA Tour over these past few years. I mean, how could you leave him off the team? I think he's going to impress a lot of people, and he's going to prove a lot of people wrong. I really do believe that. He's built for these type of events. He's a fiery dude, and he's just going to compete his ass off. We know this. He's been that dude.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, who are your picks?
I was excited to talk about this guy. I'm gonna take Ludwig Aber out of Texas Tech. He's been on tour for not long at all, like just maybe a little bit less than half a season. But since he's been on tour, he leads the entire PGA Tour in strokes gained tee to green. And the dudes behind him, Rory McIlroy and Scotty Scheffler. That's a elite list to be on. He led the country in scoring average at Texas Tech, was the number 1 ranked amateur in the world year over year. It felt like. I knew about him before Luke Donald made this pick, just from one of my teammates who was actually from Sweden as well and had told me about him. I mean, this dude is legit. He hits the ball a mile, and that's going to be a great asset at this course. So I think he's going to go out there and prove that he was worth the pick. I think, I mean, the reason why you do something like this is you have a potential future star player, and you just say, we're playing at home. You're gonna have the crowd behind you, and you want to give him that Ryder Cup experience early on. So even if he does struggle, it's a win for the European side, who's looking for more young stars.
Absolutely. You mentioned, number 1 ranked amateur in the world before he turned pro, just like this past summer. By the way, tomorrow's the first official day of autumn or fall. So I guess technically, if you wanted to say, technically it's still summer as of right now. in the official seasons, but of course we don't actually consider it to be that. 10 starts since turning pro, though. Nine cuts made in 7 top 25 finishes. He dominant driver of the golf ball, hits the ball a mile. I think he's going to be a European Ryder Cup participant for years to come, as you've mentioned. They want to get him that experience. So I do think there are going to be players on the European team that want to play with him. So I do think he's going to get some run in this Ryder Cup. But you do have one more pick. So who is that going to be?
I'm going with Shane Lowry. Last major champion on the board here. His track record, I think, goes without saying. He's been a consistent player on tour for years and years now. And I'm not completely aware of his record in Ryder Cups, but he's going to be playing. Out of the dudes on this team, he's one of the dudes that has that experience and has won a major. So I think he's going to be out there a lot. I'm not, I don't know who he's going to be paired with, but with how well he putts, how good his short game is, I'm hoping for good things for him. I think he's going to play well.
Yeah, he's 1 and 2 in the Ryder Cup, I think. But I mean, look, 28th in strokes gained total. He was uncharacteristically poor with his putter this year for his standards, but he had one of the better ball striking seasons of his career. I think he'll have a good week. He seems like the kind of guy that kind of circles events on his calendar where he wants to perform well, and this will definitely be one of those. I think Shane Lowry will be good. So how many guys are remaining? I have each of us down for 10 guys that we've selected. So I believe there should be 4, unless I've missed one.
Yeah, I only see 3 left on my board.
Okay, so I'm probably missing one that we've selected, but we'll figure that out after we get off the air.
Right.
Because I had the same realization. I only see 3 left on my board as well. So I think we're probably missing one. The problem is I don't know if it's you that has 11 or if it's me that has 11. I think it's probably you that has 11.
Yeah, since we'll
probably,
figure it out.
Yeah. For me, I'm going Sepp Straka. It's been a quiet season, or it was a quiet season for him until he broke through at the John Deere. He then had a top 2 finish at the Open Championship. Really started to make noise. That's where he really started to make noise for this Ryder Cup team. He had been known for sort of inconsistencies over the course of his career, but he's made big improvements in his game, including his iron play, which have put him on more leaderboards as of late. You've probably seen the name Sepp Straka on more leaderboards as of late if you're big into watching golf outside of just the majors, of course. He has some struggles in the short game department, so I expect to probably see him more in the 4-ball than the singles, but I think this is a type setup where he can be really aggressive, and we're to the point now where I just probably need a point or 2 out of him, maybe, if that. So I'll take Sepp Straka, and then is it Nikolai Hogard or is it
Nikolai Hogard?
Nikolai Hogard, okay. Elite driver of the golf ball, gets on the European Ryder Cup team at just 22 years old. 10 top 15 finishes so far. He spent time this year on the PGA and DP World Tours and had good results on both. Some say he profiles more for success on more American-style golf courses, so it'll be interesting to see how he fares this week in Italy. But and he's not the greatest putter in the world, but it is my last pick, and that's who I'm going to go with.
All right. Yeah. I had gone out on a limb and picked him in the Open, I think, for one of our drafts there, and he performed well. He's interesting because he actually has a older brother that was on tour as well, and I remember from 2019 he beat Tiger at the Dell Match Play, and I was actually at that match live. Um, but yeah, Hogard is. I don't think the moment will be too big for him, despite his lack of experience here. I think he had an argument for PGA Tour Rookie of the Year just with how consistent he was, and he's a straight driver of the golf ball. So no matter what format you're in, even if you're playing in the singles matches on Sunday at the Ryder Cup, you're putting the ball in the fairway, and the person you're playing is spraying it. That just puts pressure on your opponent.
Yeah, and I figured out our issue, by the way. I was missing Sam Burns from your team. So it was a quick fix, but you have the last pick.
Yeah. Only Robert McIntyre is left here. I think going into this, I sort of knew that he would be the last pick here just with his inconsistencies this season. But he won the Italian Open, nearly beat Rory at the Scottish Open this year, the tournament before the Open. And with that, had high hopes going into that Open Championship, but didn't perform quite well, quite as well as he would have wanted. But I'm not sure how much he'll play throughout the week. I'm going to be honest, but we'll see. You never know.
So I think we both ended up perfectly with 6 and 6, relatively Americans and Europeans, because you had 6 Americans, 6 Europeans, which means I probably have 6 Americans, 6 Europeans.
Yeah.
So I will read off our teams really fast. Thank you to the one person who has been watching for much of this. Appreciate that, even though this
should reiterate the rules here as well.
Yeah. I'll let you do that first, and then I'll recap our teams.
Yeah. So to recap the rules of this, we're each drafting our teams, and once the Ryder Cup starts, for if one of the players on our teams wins their match, then we would get a point for that. And say if both of our players are on, like one is on my team and one is on his team, and they win a match as teammates in the Ryder Cup, then we would each get a half point for that. And obviously, the winner at the end of the week would be the one who has the most points here at the end. So it's going to be a little bit strange just because there's going to be points in times where we're going to have 2 players on the same team win a match, and then we're going to have to split out those points. But I think this will be a fun thing to keep track of throughout the Ryder Cup.
Yeah, absolutely. And by the way, to that one viewer, whoever you might be, if you by chance tuned in thinking this was college football, because that's what we have in the title, well, this might not be college football, but we are going to have some college football talk here coming up right after this episode. So if you're here for college football, we're still going to give that to you. We just messed up the title, so we'll have to go back and fix that a little later. But to recap our draft, this was really fun. Emmy, I will start with your team. Victor Hovland, love it. Rory McIlroy, love it. Xander Schauffele, love it. Mr. Consistency. Colin Morikawa, Terrell Hatton, Wyndham Clark, Mr. Open, U.S. Open winner. Jordan Spieth, Ricky Fowler, Mr. Resurgent, Sam Burns, Ludwig Abear, Shane Lowry, and Robert McIntyre. A run of 3 Europeans to finish it off after we had a stretch of 4 Americans. And by the way, we'll be posting these picks on our socials. Maybe not tonight, but before the Ryder Cup starts, they will definitely be up there. And we've started making YouTube shorts. So I'm sure there will be some YouTube shorts on certain players that we picked and stuff. So make sure to check that out as well. And as for my team, I went with Scotty Scheffler, hook 'em horns, John Rahm, Tommy Fleetwood, Patrick Cantlay, Max Homa, Brian Harmon, Matt Fitzpatrick, Brooks Koepka, Justin Rose, Justin Thomas, Sepp Straka, and Nikolai Hogard. So those are our teams. Any parting shots?
My only parting shot is the U.S. should win this Ryder Cup. I mean, you look at both of these rosters. I mean, the U.S. has the experience advantage, the amount of PGA Tour winners and high ranking players in the official World Golf rankings as well. I mean, if we come out of this with a Europe win, it will be extremely disappointing.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'm probably picking the U.S. to win this, but history would tell you differently. Yeah. I feel like the U.S. has the better team top to bottom, but when you go man for man, top 4 or 5 guys, I mean, it's pretty relatively even, I would say. So we'll see what happens. Really excited to watch it. Maybe we can do so if time provides, we can do some sort of Ryder Cup reaction after the event, and maybe wrap up this golf year in some way, shape, or form. I know originally we wanted to do some sort of golfer tiers list, which we will still do at some point, maybe just not in the immediate future, as we'll have the baseball playoffs starting and everything else. But I feel like my parting shot is this. I feel like we've done a really, really good job with our golf coverage this year.
Yeah.
I feel like we've done a really good job, and I feel like this will be something that we continue to do. The segments might change. I don't know. The way we do it might change, but we'll continue to cover at least the majors and whatever other big events or storylines there are going on in golf. I think you can count on us for about 5 or 6 golf episodes a year at the very least.
Yeah, definitely.
So if you're into this sort of thing, as there are, I mean, the tour is as saturated with big time young talent as there's ever been, and there's more on the way. So if you're into this sort of thing, definitely tune in, and hopefully you guys enjoy this content. But for all that being said, we're going to wrap it up right here at about 55 minutes. Thank you to our one viewer. Again, if you wanted college football, but you didn't get college football, we're going to get college football here in probably the next 10, 15 minutes. But thank you guys, and we'll see you in about 15, 20 minutes for our next episode. Until then, just like, gosh, I'm running low on just like Baylor's chances of beating Texas tomorrow, which I'll tell you about here in about 20 minutes. We are gone.
Not